got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Corporate greed has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Corporate greed has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Corporate greed has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Corporate greed has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Corporate greed has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Corporate greed has got to go.
Contracts. When do we want them? What do we want? When do we want them? What do we want? Contracts. When do we want them? Now.
I'm out here because we need a fair contract, because the corporations are making billions of dollars and they won't throw us pennies, you know? So writers are entitled to earn a living. I mean, the CEOs make $20 or $30 million a year. They're paying for their yachts. We're paying for our mortgages. This is serious business. There's no content without writers. We create from nothing. So we should be rewarded for that. We should be paid fairly. You can't have a show without writers. The actors don't make it up. If you want to let the actors make it up, you'll see how bad it is. Actors are great, but they can't make up the dialogue. Yeah.
How long have you been a writer?
I've been a member of the Guild since 1992. So I've written screenplays, I've worked on television game shows, I've worked on a lot of things.
And what are the workplace conditions? What is the contract like? Can you go into a little more detail?
Well, you know, the TV shows, it used to be networks would order 20, 24 episodes of a show. Now the streaming services are ordering 8 or 10. Writers have to go from job to job, and it's much harder to make a living. There's no residuals. The streamers pay a single residual. They don't release how many eyeballs are seeing these things. So the stream of income to writers has decreased because there aren't ancillary sources of income. There's no DVDs. They're not selling it for syndication. It's staying within an ecosystem on a streaming service. So that means we get less money. So
it's just one flat fee, right? And no residuals or anything.
Right,
like that.
and they don't tell us how many eyeballs have seen what we've written. So if 10 million eyeballs are seeing this, shouldn't we get more money than if 100,000? They won't release that information. Is that fair? I don't think so.
Absolutely. Can I get your first name?
My name is Jeff.
Jeff? Thank you.
Okay. Today's cam with breaking news. Breaking news. We're basically social media. Not on TV.
Once we walk, we're walking.
Sure. So I'm a writer. I'm a late night comedy writer mostly. I'm a member of the Writers Guild of America East Council, and we're out here because we're on strike. The Writers Guild is on strike. We've been in negotiations with the AMPTP, the big studios, the Alliance of Big Studios, and we came ready to make a deal in good faith that would hopefully give writers, what we ask for is just a slice of the profits that we as writers generate for these giant corporations to keep writers in sustainable careers. We just want to be able to work and make a fair living, and they said no. There's, as you can see, there's enormous solidarity from our membership out here, and it's not because we want to be on strike or because we're greedy. It's because we know we voted 97.85%, I believe, to authorize this strike, because we know that this is a critical moment to protect writing as a career and to protect our membership and the livelihoods of our memberships against these giant corporations that are trying to squeeze every drop of profit at the expense of the people that do the work.
Absolutely. A lot of people talking about the streaming services as being part of the biggest problem.
Streaming certainly accelerated some of that, right? It's shows moving to streaming have shorter seasons, so people are employed for fewer weeks. They have to hop between jobs in what's becoming, or they're trying to turn it into more of a gig economy situation, right? There are worse residuals on streaming in a lot of ways. Like if you write for a hit show and a ton of people watch it, you don't get compensated in the same way, or a hit movie that's on streaming, you don't get compensated in the same way you used to. So there are fewer ways for writers, for us to earn our living, and streaming is a big part of that. You know, budgets are going up and up and up, and yet writer pay has declined. Median writer pay is 4% down over the last decade, and if you adjust for inflation, it's 23% down. So as budgets are escalating, I mean, like, look at this. People are energized. They're motivated because you see the announcements of executive compensation, right? You see how much Netflix is paying its 2 top executives. You see how much the head of Comcast is making, how much Ari Emanuel at Endeavor is making. And you go, oh, you're saying there's no money to pay us fairly. We see what your priorities are. We see where you're allocating this money. And it's not to the people that are making the shows, the films that you're putting on the air that people want. You know, nobody is sitting down to watch the new Ted Sarandos show. Like, it's just not a thing, and that with good reason, right? People, the writers are who generate this material, who create this material, and they're saying, no, that's our money on your work.
What are some of the shows that you've worked on?
Sure, I've worked on, mostly I've been in late night. I was a writer at Last Week's Night with John Oliver for a number of years. I was a writer and producer at Deezus and Mero and Showtime. So I've been in a lot of late night. I did a little consulting work on the last season of Mrs. Maisel. And so it's tough to see this happen, and you can see that our membership is like so energized. We would all rather be working, right? We came to the table wanting to work continuously, wanting to keep shows up and running. There are people that are not, you know, the writers for all the shows that would air tonight are not working on those shows. This is New York. This is where most of the late night shows happen, and those are just off the air now. We wanted to be working. I know the writers that work on those shows want to be making a fair paycheck for that work, but you know, on streaming, coming into this negotiation, there were no minimum salaries for late night writers who write for streaming services, and they countered that with basically a proposal to raise the wages a little bit, but also to create a situation where they could be paid a day rate. Writers could be paid a day rate instead of a 13-week guarantee, which is what we're used to on networks. And it's just trying to dismantle the stability and the sustainability of a career in writing for the sake of corporate profits, not because it's right, not because it makes better work, but because it's better for their bottom line. And it's unfair, and we're out here saying we're not going to let it happen. Yeah, Josh Gondelman. Yeah, I think it absolutely is. We're not alone in this, you know, and even like so far the people have spoken out. There's the entertainment unions have spoken in solidarity. The DGA, SAG-AFTRA, the Teamsters have said they don't cross picket lines. IATSE, members of IATSE are here. So it's like, this is not a unique story to us, but this is our time to speak out in this way for it, right? So I think like across America, across different kinds of workforces, corporations are trying to create shareholder value at the expense of their own workers being paid a fair wage, and that's coming down on writers as well as other kinds of workers. Yeah.
All we ask for is fair pay, ho ho! Hey hey! All we ask for is fair pay, ho ho! Hey hey! All we ask for is fair pay, ho ho! Hey, hey! All we ask is for fair pay.
Can you just talk to me about the sign, about what you mean about the studios wanted this?
Well, I mean, the studios have, for the last 15 years since the previous strike, have been dodging their responsibility to deal fairly with their workers, and as a result, the average wages for guild members has gone down, and we're being squeezed out of existence. It's becoming impossible for most people to make a living in working in television or film at this point. And so we had no choice. I mean, if we kept signing contracts with them in good faith, they're in profoundly bad faith, and they're not treating us like we're employees or workers who create value for them. They're treating us like some resource that they can suck wealth out of, and they're incredibly short-sighted. They don't care if they destroy the whole industry in the process. So I think the time has come that we have to start to really push back, and I hope the Directors Guild and the Screen Actors Guild will do the same, because they are literally destroying the film and television industry.
A lot of people are talking about the streaming services being one of the reasons why this is happening.
Yeah, well, and they're unaccountable because nobody knows their numbers, nobody understands their business models, so they take stuff that we create, we don't get residuals, they're clearly profiting. They pretend that there's great chaos, but somehow in the chaos, all the money is going up into Jeff Bezos' pocket or David Zaslav's pockets, and they need to be called to account.
The actual creators are not getting what they should be getting.
Yeah, I mean, which has been true of the way that Hollywood has treated writers since Hollywood began, but it's gotten so much worse. And
how long have you been a writer?
I have been writing since I was 26, and I'm 40 years.
And what are some of the shows that you've worked on?
I wrote Munich, Lincoln, West Side Story, and The Fabelmans with Steven Spielberg.
And did anything change after 2007 after that?
Yeah, everything got worse. Literally, our wages, not for me personally, but the wages for writers have gone down in the last 15 years. So,
can I get your name?
Tony Kushner.
Thank you, Tony.
Contracts! Out! Shut it down! Shut it down! Shut it down! Hi. Yes, I'm in support of this strike to get writers and the WGA a better contract. And really, honestly, we're all here in solidarity because I'm part of the sibling union, SAG-AFTRA. So I'm here in solidarity with all of my writers. I mean, we can't do this without writers. There would be no shows, no movies without writers. So we need better contracts now.
Yeah, no, they got it on there. That's great. Talk about, like, people who just put in the work. Decades of that's
I'm out here right now because our profession is just that. It's a profession just like any other profession. The way that, nurses are going on strike because there are so few of them getting paid relatively little for the work that they do. That's why we're here. Same with teachers, right? There are not very many of us, and we're not getting paid nearly enough for actually creating the blueprints for these shows that are benefiting these companies to a ridiculous degree.
How long have you been a writer?
Well, part of the union anyway, since 2019.
What are some of the projects, shows that you worked on?
So I've worked on a show on Hulu, Tell Me Lies on Hulu, 3 Women, which hasn't premiered yet, is coming out on Stars. A few other things, mostly feature film projects also. Yeah, it would be really great to, like, for example, get weekly pay as a screenwriter working on a feature film instead of, the producers sort of drawing it out over 1, 2 years, 3 years, right? So that would be great. It would be nice. So those shows that I mentioned, despite writing episodes for those shows, I wasn't even invited to set. So it's not even just about the money, it's also about like the artistic consideration, like being invited into the artistic process in a way that doesn't just say like, oh great, we got your script, now bye. Right? That would be great.
And what do you think is the driving force of all this?
I just think that there's so much, there are so many outlets now. There are like way more now than there were 30 and 40 years ago, right? So it's like this, the streamers are just these machines, right, that are just cranking out, and they're looking for them anyway, the most cost-effective way of doing that, but then it results in shit like this, right? And it's like, well, if you just paid people like what their work is worth, this wouldn't be happening.
I was talking to somebody before about the royalties and you know, what you get back for how many times the show is streamed. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, from what I understand, we writers get screwed on that front pretty majorly, particularly when a series starts at one streamer. Okay, yeah, we get paid for that. But then when it moves to another streamer, not so much. Again, it's like executives who are the top folks who are benefiting the most from this, even though they have really the least to do with the creation of the shows that are benefiting the company.
I have one more question to ask. So what do you think will happen if the contract is not, an agreement is not reached very soon?
Who the hell knows, man? But I know I'm not going back in any writer's room without it. You know, I'm here. I mean, we all know the specific reasons. I'm here to support my union because my union is the reason that I can take for granted the rights that I actually do have. So when they call, I'm going to show up. And when they say it's okay to go back to work, that's when I'll go back to work, but not sooner than that. Shisa. Shisa. C-H-I-S-A.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
United, we'll never be divided. The writers united, will never be divided. The writers united, will never be divided. The writers united, will never be divided.
Well, we're fighting for a living wage. I mean, at this point, the business has changed so much, and you can't really work more than a few weeks or months at a time. There are very few long-term jobs. Streaming has changed everything, and the companies have not really acknowledged this or valued the writing community enough to keep up with what's changed.
How long have you been a writer?
I've been a writer for about 40 years, starting in daytime television. Yeah, writing soap operas. So there are only 4 left. That's how things have changed, another way things have changed.
So you're saying that the streaming services are what really is driving this and will change it?
Right, absolutely. That's what's very different from 15 years ago when we were striking. There was essentially no such thing. We were still talking about things like DVDs and, you know, nobody was streaming the way they are now.
A lot of people were talking about the strike back in 2007,
Yeah.
right? What were things like back then?
Well, things were bad in a different way, is all I can tell you. And we were trying to prepare for what we were then calling new media, because the business was already starting to change and broadcast television was starting to make way for what we now know as streaming.
And what do you think is going to happen if an agreement is not reached?
Well, I mean, it's a little early to talk about an agreement not being reached. Hopefully, a job action like this makes a difference. People begin to get more serious, and we have fingers crossed that this won't last too long, and people will be able to come back to the table and start making sense.
Right. I took a job
Courtney.
at the sandwich.
Sure.
Ho ho! Corporate greed has got to go. Hey hey! Ho ho! Corporate greed has got to go. Hey hey! Ho ho! Corporate greed has got to go. Hey hey! Ho ho! Corporate greed has got to go.
Who's not watching?
question about your sign. I see a lot of people wrote, "What would Larry David do?" Can you explain that?
Well, he's a friend of mine, so he would probably be furious that who put my name on the sign? Who gave the right to put that? Yeah. But yeah, he would, but I can answer that. He would, as he used to do when he was a stand-up, he would look out at the crowd and storm off. And so I think that he would storm off if he wasn't being treated fairly. So I think that's the inference.
Are you a writer yourself?
Yes, I am.
How long have you been a writer?
I've been a writer. Well, I've been a member of the Guild for 31 years.
And can you tell me some of the projects that you worked on?
I worked on the Letterman show for 25 years. This is Barbara Gaines, who ran everything at Letterman, my best friend, and came down to support us. That's Lee Ellenberg, who worked with us at Letterman for a million years. This is Ann Cohen, who's been the head writer in the Writers Guild Awards for years and worked with Michael Moore.
Don't hurt her.
And what can you tell me about what's going on here with the strike and what's happening with the contract?
I don't know well, I'm not negotiating the contract, but I'll tell you the business model's broken and there's no more commercial television. That's why this is in 1984. And, you know, the producers have always pretended like technology was this thing they didn't understand. So, look, we're going to straighten this out, but, you know, you just got to trust it. So some 25-year-old gets a gig writing on a streaming show, and they say, hey, okay, it's 8 weeks, might be 6. It's not covered by the Guild because it's streaming, and we really don't even know what that means. So after 6 weeks, you know, you'll take this money, and that's the end of it. No protection, no benefits, and so no residuals, no net. So that's when you're in a work stoppage, you're always fighting for the generations that come after you. And these people have no protection. They have no protection. And so we're just fighting for the future. You know, in 2007, when we went on strike, 30% of the Guild had made enough to get health care. And I'm going to bet, and I no longer bet, I'm going to bet it's about half of that now. Because they can say, look, this isn't part of the contract. This wasn't, all right, so we're going to make it part of the contract. So that's what this is about.
So do you think things actually got worse after 2007?
I'm sorry?
Do you think it actually got worse after 2007?
Well, yeah, because no, we made huge gains in the future contracts. We made huge gains with our health care, with our pension plan, with what we used to call the new media. You know, like the stuff that was the new media back then, like YouTube and some of these pay-per-view streaming things. But then the business model totally changed. And these streaming services and the mini rooms and stuff that didn't exist, they popped up. And this is an inflection point now because there's no more. You don't get the gig that I got for 25 years at Letterman. I'm sad to say, and I owe everything to this Guild. I owe everything to the Guild. So that's why, you know, we come out here and we fight for the people after us, because they don't have that protection that we have. You know, day one at Letterman, I got Guild minimum, and I made enough to pay for my health care. And that doesn't exist anymore. That doesn't exist anymore. It just doesn't, and it's wrong. It's wrong. It shouldn't be that. And the only thing that's gone up is the compensation for the people that create that for the corporations that run these things, not for the people that create them.
Right. And what are they without the creators?
Right. You know, but it's always it's utter exploitation, and it's been going on since the dawn of business. You know, and that's what it is. And now, of course, it's just crazy. So,
can I get your first name?
My name is Bill Sheft.
Thank you, Bill.
All right.
Talking to you.
New York is a union town. Get up, get down. New York is a union town. Get up, get down. New York is a union town. Get up, get down. Let's go, honk your horn. Honk it, honk it. Let's go, let's go, honk your horn, let's go. Let's go,
that needs to stop. I think writers deserve fair pay. I think I don't think AI should be the one writing the scripts. I think that there's not a single show I've wanted to keep watching that didn't have like a great writer behind it. Writing is the heart and soul of television. You know, like the shows I'm watching now, Succession, Barry, it's all about, everything great about those shows is off the back of the writing. And that's why I'm here.
Gotcha. Can I get your first name?
Yeah, Avi, A-V-I-E-Z-O-R.
Thank you, Avi. Got to ask you one thing.
Yeah.
What's going on with this Peacock about? What is that?
This is new fronts, so it's like upfronts for new media. So it's like the selling their upcoming slate to advertisers, I believe, is what the definition of that is. So they're like courting advertisers. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I just wanted to know why.
Yeah, so that's what it is. It's Peacock having this event of like, they're doing an industry event where they're like pitching their new slate of shows or their upcoming slate of shows to advertisers. Yeah.
Okay, they do it every day or?
No. This is like, so there's upfronts that happen like once a year really, and that's in a couple weeks, but the new media ones I think happen a little earlier, and the big network ones happen a